So this is a writing that I did, not poetry, but writing that I did this morning after a meditation. I've been focusing a lot on inherited uh, trauma responses and trauma resilience from your bloodline, basically. I've been reading It Didn't Start With You, um, as well as Columbus and Other Cannibals, and The Body Keeps the Score. Um, all excellent books that I recommend. This writing is exclusively about where I know that I'm coming from in my family history, in my some of like what I've been told, as well as my lived experience and my current understanding of race system, equity, who was legally provided humanization or not in the US. I would encourage listeners to ask questions rather than make judgments, because there's going to be a lot of nuances that I understand that I'm tying together, is what I'm saying. All right. I think my biggest and deepest fear is being lost to those I'm known to. I think that's the biggest pain everything in my body reels from. Like coming to / being taken to a strange new place with no way to get back. This ties in with knowing when you leave there might not be anything to return to. This ties in with abandonment, even if that's an abrupt unwelcomeness. It ties in with exposure and the vulnerability of being bare and unable to protect yourself. It's betrayal. It's being stolen. Along with this, my most ingrained training is code switching, masking neurodivergence, intelligence, sensitivity, mistrust, abilities and disabilities, identities. The value and need and importance of hiding is what my mother taught me best. Hide from the unsafety out there, the big bad men, the women who will lie and mislead. She also taught me it was crucial to hide from her, because I'd always been an imported slave that she didn't like, sometimes had use for. Mostly I was an inconvenience. My basic and pure existence was an unwelcome necessity of both our lives. I wasn't taught how to get by in the world, I think largely because my mom didn't know either. She'd been a slave passed around all her life and only given legal freedom to own a bank account or rent as a single mother for around a decade before I was born. She had been born into the slavery that was being a woman in the United States prior to the sovereignty of women that began actualizing as rights and financial independence from a male guardian in the 60s and 70s. Her mother bore 6 children. My mother was the first and quickly became the nanny, cook, chauffeur, and babysitter. Her mother was a slave, and in my mother's childhood created the freedoms available to her via deceptions and betrayals to her husband. My mother went from husband to husband, the only freedom being to offer up your slavery to new takers. We children were a baggage and a burden. I didn't recognize that I did dating the identical way in my 20s for quite some time, continuing to equate relationships to power structures into my 30s. There are the fears that scarcity creates. When scarcity is manufactured, and all scarcities that I've experienced in my life were, it is slavery. But I think all the fears and habits and superstitions surrounding manufactured scarcity are still paled by the fear of losing everyone I know and finding myself alone. There are also the quiet whispers of slavery that keep reality intact. This is also usually so mired in circumstance that it's its own form of code switching. Remember, the superimposed reality is an unfair circumstance provided by arrogant and violent people who have banished your people as an exploitable resource. The ways in which you must hide anything more valuable to exploit, or anything vulnerable left to break. These are the whispers of willful resilience that echo through my family of oppression. Irish, Scottish, English, Cherokee. Stories of a Black and Cherokee woman married into the Irish several generations ago. That's honestly probably where the growth spurred from. The choice to be seen as equal value with a Black and Native as Irish, and to make family together, in a place and time that discounted both of your values but with differing discrimination. Both were stories of upheaval, being owned, bought, kept, expected to work and provide, but to not inconvenience their authorities with needs or unique personalities or tempos. Maybe she is who left these whispers in my blood and in my bones, for me to find there when I became lost and determined to find myself. When being loved, sought, or known ceased to be an option. Her whispers I found, I felt, I heard. They grounded me in my body and in time and place and with my truth and my God. Her presence knelt beside me when I had curled up and was out of fight. Out of the belief that I could steal the master's tools and create anything that would sound of freedom. When I needed to come home and find my way home, she left directions.